All right, everybody, welcome back to the Business Exchange, the show where we dive into the ideas, people, and innovations shaping industry and redefining the future. I'm your host, Joseph. Today I'm joined with Austin Park, founder of Visual Installations LLC, a nationwide expert sign installation company transforming retail and commercial spaces across the United States. From interior signage and storefront visuals to environmental graphics, fleet rollouts, and vehicle wraps, Austin and his team help brands stand out from Florida to Alaska, California to New York. Welcome to the show, Austin.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to doing this, Joseph.
Yeah, perfect. So, Austin, what led up to the launch of Visual Installations?
Um, Really, I just always been somebody that's been grew up, good with my hands. I grew up on a farm, and then was in the construction industry. And a friend of mine, when I was younger, asked me when I first got my driver's license. He was studying to be a paramedic, but he was doing this signage stuff on the side, and was like, "Hey, you mind driving while I study between going to these things?" I was like, "Sure." And obviously on site, I would just help him. Never thought anything would come of that. Just did that a few times for him, and then ended up going into the mission field for a long time. I spent 3 or 4 years traveling the world doing humanitarian work overseas, and when I was all done with that, I was doing construction, and he called me up one day and was like, "Hey, you mind help me out? I have something down in Tampa real quick. I just need you to take this down, and that's it." And I was like, "Okay, sure." I was just excited to go to Tampa because I love fishing the Skyway Bridge down there, and so I was like, "Hey, man, I get paid to go down to Tampa." I didn't know what I was going to make. I was just helping him out, and it took me about an hour. And at the time, I had a construction company, just a small handyman thing. It was just me and my dog, and I made more in that 1 hour of signage than I did an entire week of my, handyman construction business. And so I was like, "Hey, you got any more of this?" And he's like, "You mind traveling?" I'm like, "I have no problem with that at all." So I ended up in the business, and me and my dog been to all 50 states. We've been doing this stuff all over the place, and just grew it up to what it is now.
Oh, that's excellent. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, what gap did you see in the sign installation and visual branding market?
I'm not sure I saw much of a gap. I just think I saw something that I could do better. So it's
Right.
kind of a, the issue in today's world is pretty much every business is just doing what you say you're going to do, and we all mess up. Don't get me wrong, and I think that we can all get, no matter how good you are, your communication or your logistics or whatever, there's always room for improvement. And so as long as every single time you do something, you're trying to get a little bit better. Um, then you're golden. What I was seeing was more people that were like they could install, but they couldn't communicate very well, or they could communicate really well, but really sucked at the install. I seem to be able to blend them both, and you know somehow knew because they were my friends that I was working for the most part. I knew what they needed, and so I would just provide that. So if they needed more photos or more documentation or going that extra step, that's what I would do. I would just try my hardest to be better than I was the last time, and just get better and better and better. And people like that. People like people they can depend on. And so
Yeah.
I was able to build that up. I was able to, leverage it more and more. People liked it. People would give me bigger and bigger jobs, and now we have almost 1,000 vendors in the United States and Canada, and even branched overseas a little more. So, you know, do what you say you're going to do, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
pretty much that simple.
Ah, excellent. So, what were the early challenges scaling nationwide?
Honestly, I think the biggest issue I probably had was I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be the person to go to the install in Montana or in New York or in Alaska or wherever it was. I was always wanting to be on site. So I didn't really push the scale part of it until I got called out for it. There's this guy who he was asking me to be on his podcast, and he did like a pre-interview essentially. And he basically was like, "Dude, you're never going to go anywhere. You can't scale that. Your model is not scalable. So, I don't really want you on the podcast." Basically, it was just like I was pretty offended. I ain't gonna lie. He came right at me and was just like, "Yeah, you're not going to be able to make this work." And honestly, it did. As angry as I was, he was right. I wasn't going to be able to make it work, and so I was like, "All right, I have to work on the business, not just in it so much." My love of travel and the excitement of the adventure and the problem solving on site and working with my hands, that's what I'm good at. The other part of the back end of the business, I wasn't good at. And so once I pushed myself and started really focusing on building it out bigger and not being on site as much, um, those back end systems, again, it's all about refining and getting better. Those things that was a challenge for me, was to shift that focus. And then right after making that mental shift, I spoke to a mentor of mine. He's part of the Three Comma Club, and I texted him one day and was like, "Look, I'm sick and tired of hitting." I think we'd hit like $1 million a couple years in a row, but I couldn't get it past like the 1.1, 1.3. I was really frustrated. And he was like, "Look, man, your problem is if you 10x today, you're just going to 10x your problems." He's like, "You got to build your SOP and then try to break it. Build your SOP and try to break it. Do it over and over and over and over until it's bulletproof. And then once it's bulletproof, then you have to adapt it as the market changes, as the technology changes, and all that stuff." And those 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 days of your initial simple little SOP to building out a system was very difficult for me. I really was not good at it. I'm not saying that it's just a self-deprecating thing. It's true. I was really bad at it. Um, I made a lot of mistakes. It took me a
Mm.
lot of. It was a big change for me to go from being in the field to building the back end of a business, not just being a sole proprietor. So
Right.
I had a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how you learn, right?
It is, yeah.
You
No,
gotta
I
make
knocked myself
mistakes.
fell over a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So how does your revenue model work per install, contract, and national rollouts?
It varies per, honestly. So our system typically is it's broken up between a program, which is kind of a multi-year, multi-site. That's just kind of the same thing all over the place, but it's scheduled out for years. Then you have your rollout, which is like, hey, we need all of these locations done by this amount of time. Here's all of your graphics. Get started, and then you have your one-off. So we take those three things into consideration, and also the relationship with the client. Is this a client that we do multi six figures a year with? We obviously give better pricing to those people. Is this is this an overnight? Is this a textured install? Is this a we have broken down our sheet. That's, again, this is one of those things that took me a very long time to nail down how I wanted to do it. But those sort of things are, it's all priced in there, and so we take it into consideration. And now this is one of those things where you build that initial SOP and then adapt to technology. We have been able to adapt it into an AI that does a lot of it for us. We're able to type in the scope of work and upload the documents based off of our pricing, and it spits out our assumptions, a summary of the job. It gives us our low and the high, where to be in, because depending on the relationship with the client, where we're going to be with that. Because we want the human side of it still, so that it spits out our numbers and assumptions, but the account manager is going to be the one. Hey, here's what we came up with. Let us know when you're ready. We'll put it on the calendar. I don't want it. I don't want an AI to do everything. I do think that there is massive value in the inefficiencies as well. Like, there is that extra human connection is what's needed. Now, use technology, but don't lose that human connection. And so
Yes.
it used to be just like, literally, it was just our big sheet that had every factor into it. And then we would price it out, and put it in an email and send it. Now we have the AI that does all that for us, and
Yeah.
it takes a human to put that other connection to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you cannot forget the personal touch and building
Yeah,
relationships one on one. That's very
yeah.
critical.
Well,
So,
that same friend of mine, that billionaire friend of mine, he specifically was like, "Look, all of your sales, all of your business development you're doing is over the phone, over a Zoom call, over an email." He's like, "You need to go to these people's offices." He's like, "Do it." He's like, that
yeah.
in today's world is one of the things that's going to make you stand out." So I do. I will schedule. Hey, I'm going to be in New York City for 3 days. I'm going to schedule 20 meetings over those course of however many. I do that in person handshake. Look in the eye. And I'm from the South, so a spit handshake is binding as any contract. But it's still that added. Um, that value add of taking the time to actually build that connection is how you get more of those multi six-figure clients. That's how you build a
Gotcha.
real relationship for 30 years, not two or three installs.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, how do you manage quality control across multiple states?
That is extremely difficult. And it comes down to the relationships you build with your vendors. Honestly, we have a list of a lot of almost 1,000, and in that 1,000, we also have a blacklist. You build these relationships and you work on them and you nurture them. Sometimes it is my fault. Sometimes I don't think I do everything perfectly, but how someone responds to uh, hardship, I guess we'll put it. It's kind of like when things go wrong on a job site, how they respond to the pushback from a Karen manager or something like people that can handle it well, or a very picky client. Those are the people that can handle those situations are the people I want to work with. And if they're rude to my client, or if they are, not representing my client well, it's my job to make my client look good in front of their client. And if
Yeah,
my guy on the ground is not doing that, um, I can't have him work. He could be the best installer there is, but there has to
yeah,
be that human element to it that he can handle the chaos of it. Because here's the part that people don't like to get. We all look from the desk side. On the desk side, you see all the metrics. You have this address, here's your graphics, go put it up. That's all. Emma, give me a picture. What they don't see is, okay, that address is Lower Manhattan. You got to drive into Lower Manhattan, find a place to park that costs an arm and a leg in your firstborn. You got to get all your tools together and carry them down the freaking street to whatever building it is. There's a lot more rules there on what, people that go in and out of there, and having ladders set up on a sidewalk versus inside versus this. They're usually smaller rooms, and the installer has to go through a lot of stuff to finally get in, check in with somebody. They have to check with their boss to make sure that you are legit. You're supposed to be putting up this new sign and all the different things. It's not as simple as just walking in, putting up a couple graphics and leaving. And so, there has to be a lot of grace given to those guys, because on top of that, they
yeah,
also have to be professional. So they have to be communicative. You have the client on the phone saying, send me pictures, send me pictures, send me pictures. I want an update every 20 minutes or whatever. It's like, that is not realistic given the scenario he's in. Sometimes you can only be there for 2 hour window before they open, and very demanding, very demanding, and
yeah,
and also these short when there's 1,000 things, 1,000 factors, and so trying to maintain that high quality, given all of the factors that are happening, is extremely complicated, and a lot of it is trial and error. I wish I could say, oh, we have this perfect system that does X, Y, Z. We don't. And I had a meeting literally yesterday over the same issue. This installer we've been working with for years that has done dozens of installs with us. He did not do great on this install. It's just a simple truth. And part of it, I don't know what the whole part of it was. The client, they definitely shipped the wrong things, and you have to deal with that. And they arrived a day later than they were supposed to, so he had to switch out this and that. It was just a big mess. But he did not handle the adverse situation very
right.
well. I'm not going to blacklist him. He has a lot of, he gets some grace because he's been working with us for years. Um, but it is still, no matter how good someone is, they have those days. They could be dealing with
Yes,
something we don't know about, and so you have to. It's learning to read people, which is, again, not something I'm great at, and I have to rely on my team for that a lot. But I wish I had a great answer for you with that. It's very much a trial and error, and building the good
yeah,
relationship with the vendor, because that's the human connection where you have to know that vendor. And I did know that
yes,
vendor, and so when I got on the phone call with the client, I was able to go to bat for him and be like, look, I'm sorry, we will take this responsibility, and then also here's your responsibility, and we'll handle
yes.
this installer or whatever. But there's it's all in the relationship when it comes to that stuff, at least with service based
Yeah, and
stuff.
that's important when you're saying to have a good partner that is like-minded with your values of how you run your
Yeah.
business. So, how do you handle last-minute design changes for corporate clients? Does it happen
Well, for my
often?
part of it, we don't do any of the manufacturing or the design. We strictly install. So thankfully, we don't have to make
Okay.
those changes. But they do. Design changes do still affect us significantly. I cannot tell you how many times we will put something up, and what it looked like on the window or the wall is not what they had in mind from the computer screen. And so they will take it down, but they will have us take it down, but it's for an event that's happening in 24 hours. So they have to
Yeah.
make the change, reprint, get it to you, and you have to come back and put it up. You do get paid more for that. I'm not saying that you don't, but like it affects us pretty hardcore. I mean, I can't tell you. There was one. I'll never forget this. This is just a. I don't know how many people saw this before it finally got to us, but I literally did this install, and it was one of those installs where you had to work through the night. You were not allowed to work during store hours because it was a huge retail store. They didn't want a ladder over the doors where people were walking in and out and
Hmm.
stuff. So I had to do it overnight. I'm tired. I did like 4 locations. It's a pretty big install. It's like 8 or 10 windows at each location, but they misspelled the word Florida in big, humongous letters. Florida was across all 8 windows, and it was uh, fl- uh, they had just swapped it. It was a simple, that the designer just was in a hurry and typed it too fast. But it was on 8 locations by the time we realized, or not 8 locations. It was on a 5 location by the time we realized it. And they're like, "You got to get it down right now. We cannot have this up during the store." So then we had to drive to each one, take them all down, and start all over again. And so they still affect us. It's something special every time. Yeah, no, there's no great system for it. It's you got to make the client look good for their client, and so you don't want them to look bad. You want to be known for the guy that makes them look good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it was a late night, early morning. Just
Wow. So are skilled installers becoming harder to find?
yes and no. I think that the barrier to entry for my particular part of it, the installation part, the barrier to entry is low. You can go take a 3M class over, a week or 3 days or whatever, and you can start wrapping vehicles. You may not be great at it, but you can start. So I will say that it's harder. I think the new guys slash the not skilled installers weed themselves out because the good ones stand out. In all of the groups that we're in, whether it's, there's like 6 or 7 different Facebook pages I'm on for different vehicle wrappers, retail wrappers, install this, whatever. Um, you can see the good ones and the experienced ones in their posts or in the questions they ask or in people's responses. And so, because a lot of those guys are vendors with us, um, I have been able to learn who's good and who isn't. You don't get it right every time. Sometimes a client will be, "I need someone tomorrow morning," and it's Friday afternoon, and you're like, "Oh snap!" And so you just
Hmm.
take who you can get, and you just let the client know, "Hey, we have not worked with this installer before. We don't know, but he can be there tomorrow," and says he can do it. And so you kind of have to take that leap of faith. Sometimes you find the best installers that way. I ain't gonna lie. There's a couple
Yeah.
guys that I work with that came through when no one else did, and they were actually able to pull it off, and it looked good. And now I give them everything in their area because they were good installers. They showed up when the client needed it most. So I think the good guys, the people that are doing things right, will find each other. It just happens
Yeah.
that way, and it's not a There's no perfect scenario. When I first started building out our systems, we were recruiting. We were specifically going, okay, look at a map. Here's all of our pins. Find any pocket and find installers in those areas. And that's what we started doing.
Hmm.
Now that we have the coverage, we slowly weed them out because, oh, he can't make it. Is there anybody else in the area? We'll ask him. Oh, yeah, this guy's good. And, we bring them in. So then you end up getting more and more people and find better people that way. So you can do your
Excellent.
best to weed the good and bad ones out. But honestly, you just don't know until you work with them. Now, at the same time, when I say that, I have worked with installers. The first probably 30 to 50 installers I personally recruited. I was in each of these states. I was like, "Hey, can I do a job with you? See how it goes." "Okay, yeah, you do it the way I like it." Awesome. But I've also been fooled. I did this install one time in Miami. It was a humongous install. The guy showed up when he needed, last second, all the things, had talked a really good game and installed well. But then when he was left on his own, he was horrible. He was very bad to the client as far as his communication and how he spoke to them. He was a horrible installer, screwed up multiple installs, did not follow the instructions and how they wanted things disposed of and stuff. Because a lot of our things, like once you take it down, sometimes you have to destroy it, so that it can't be used somewhere else. You can't, some of them you can take videos of what you're doing, some of them you can't. He was not listening to any of the rules. He was not shipping back what had to be shipped back. And it was a lot of really bad things. And I personally worked with the guy. I did really big install and he did great. And then he just didn't. Like, I don't even know how,
Hmm.
it's embarrassing. But, it's part of life, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, you're right there. So, if you could eliminate one recurring headache, what would it be?
Oh, man. That's a long list. um,
We only got 15 minutes. No,
yeah,
just kidding.
no, goodness, man. Um, let's see. When it comes to headaches, I think it probably would be um, once a plan is made that you stick like once you make that plan, the client sticks to that plan because we work so hard. The team works so hard. Literally, I'll give you just a straight scenario without names. We got this. We won this rollout. Okay, so a rollout again is more. I classify it as more than 15 sites. That's the same thing being done, just slightly different at each location. It has to be done in a short window. I call that a rollout. So we have a 1 month time frame to get all these done, and they say, okay, green light. You can start as early as next week. We are producing now. We will ship out Monday, so you can start as early as Friday. Awesome. We schedule all 80 something locations. I think it was 84 locations starting that Friday through the following week. Now, it's not like all 80 of those are around New York City or Miami. It was like 40 different states. Like they're all spread out.
Wow.
So every person gets one, or maybe two. I think Vegas had four, but everybody else has one, the random one here, random one here, random one here. And then come Monday, they're like, hey, I know we said you could do it Friday, but you can't do it till next week, Wednesday. Sorry, production's a little bit slow. So now you had to redo it for the following week, push everything at least a
Hmm.
week. So you do all those emails and phone calls and everything, and get it all situated in your CRM and your project management tool. And then Saturday morning, before that next week starts again, they said, hey, the client has special labor laws depending on X, Y, and Z. And since these have to be done before hours, they had to get new people at all these locations. You have to do it again starting 1st of March or whatever. So it was 3 times in a row of planning out an entire project for the client after you did it. So the headache there is that's one big scenario, but it happens all the time with other ones too. You make the plan, you schedule it, you get all the logistics for packages arriving here, installer with his crew is going to arrive this time. This is going to happen. This person's on site to let you in because it's an overnight install. The lift is also being delivered on such and such day, so we're not paying for more days than we need to. You do all of that work, all that back leg work, and then it changes. And or hey, you can get there after setting all that up, and it could be a wrong print. It could be the wrong size. It could be, like you could be off by one digit and have a whole crew show up a week later, and so
Yeah.
it's like there's those sort of things. So a lot of it usually is a client change, which we're here to serve the client. But if you're, the thing that takes the most of our time is redoing all of the work 2 or 3 times, because, somebody's so high up that you don't even, can't even fathom where they are, decided to make
Yeah.
that change, so
Yeah.
that right there.
Yeah. Wow. So, are you currently using any AI tools in operation, scheduling, or quoting?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, told you about the making the AI for quoting. That was a really big change for us, and really excited on how it's working. It's not perfect. I would say we get it right 92 to 95% of the time, but there is some. We just went over something this morning that it got way wrong, and so we have to. Okay, how was that wrong? We have also implemented it in a lot of our workspace. So we started building other AI gems with Gemini, so that something to help with Here's the cash flow. We upload our documents to it every single week, like our P&L, our balance sheet, our accounts receivable, accounts payable, and it gives us, here's how best to do X, Y, Z. What we gave it instructions on, how do we, knowing what how do we maximize EBITDA, maximize profits, and make sure that everyone is paid on time. Because it also is now tracking things, and it can tell us the average time it takes for a client to pay. Because we have that is another headache that we deal with, is just getting people to pay, because blue collar is old school, and so it's hard to get people to even wire. They all want to do checks, so we have to do checks, and so then it's late, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, we signed it, all the usual stuff. Oh yeah, we signed it. It's not out yet. It'll go out Friday or whatever. And so now we have to do that, so that otherwise you're just paying out money before you get it. It's something we're learning, but that's a whole other issue. But we have also added AI with a lot of our scheduling, so it is learning us. So if you use Google Workspace like we do, you can activate Gemini in a lot of it. So it can look back as far as 3 years into your inbox, and it will learn how you work. It looks at your Google Calendar. It looks at this and this and this. And it can give you a good broad stroke of it. So we all have a prompt we put into our inbox every single morning, and it's like, go through the emails over the last 2 days, prioritize them, and give me responses or action items for each one that are the top 10 most priority things. And we start the day off with, here are the things that will move the needle forward best. And so it gives everybody we now have actual action items. We are now proactive versus being reactive by having Gemini scan our own inboxes. The other one that we really pushed hard on is it will, Gemini can speak to HubSpot and Monday, which we both use, as well as our Google Workspace. And so we're able to get a sense, especially on the sales side, get a sense of our communication with the client, where the relationship currently stands, when the last time we were. It gives you a summary of all of the communication with that client or prospect over the course of this time. And it will also say, here's how you might be able to reach them better, or here's how you might be able to do this better. And we started using the Google Notes during each of my sales calls. And now we're getting a database of all of our sales calls, of my responses to all of our general questions. And now we are building a sales bot by taking those transcripts and putting those into another gem, and it will now answer questions. I can have my sales team use this, that here's how we answer that question. Here's how we do this. Here's how we do that. And so that has been really cool. Just the teaching of the AI so that it does things the way we want it to do things. It's been really cool that the AI stuff we are all doing 1.5 to 2 times our usual work in the same time frame, because these things do it so much faster. And
Right.
even better in some cases.
Yes. So would centralized AI dashboards help monitor nationwide performance in real time?
They probably would. I have not gotten that far with AI. I'm pretty new to the AI space. I've been messing around with it for about a year, and then about 3 months ago, I was like, I'm going to get really good at this. And so I've only got about 3 months of really digging hard and optimizing things for our system. And so I have tried to. I built out a dashboard in Monday, because that's our main project management tool. And now that has an AI inside of it, it has done I've been able to do some pretty cool things with that, where setting up the automations and then telling AI to know when to do X, Y, and Z, what things to ask for, and like just telling it to do whatever has been great. In my own personal calendar, I have it set to. I set a time on my calendar from 9 to 11 a.m. is deep work. I do stuff before I get up at really early. So about from 4 to 8, I'm doing a lot of things, but it fluctuates, because some of that is, reading my Bible. Sometimes it's working out. Those 2 things are pretty much every day. And so it's not deep work necessarily, but those 2 hours are. But now AI is like, here are the things that will move the needle forward. So here are the things that you prioritize. Here's what we're seeing, and this is where you left off at. So I am much more intentional with those 2 hours of deep work than just, okay, what do I need to work on? It now knows it. And so it is starting to put those things together on, here's how you move. This is what's important to you. Okay, let me give you what you need to do next. And just the simple things like building our online presence a little better, like just our online footprint. We have a social media team and we have a sales team, but your website needs X, Y, Z. So I'm learning these things. What can the
Mm-hmm.
AI do to keep this going in the background? And just the things I've been doing that it's telling me to do. The traffic is up on the site. It's not like a massive like e-com site or anything, but just the general SEO and meta tags and different things I've been able to put on there. We've seen a jump in the traffic and people coming to the site, and so learning that part of it. Just yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but there's a lot of things that AI is already dripping into that I'm now able to take action, like legitimate moving the needle action items on, because the
Yes.
AI is seeing it and I can ask it, and hey, what is this like? What is this like?
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it's at. Here's what you can do to improve it, and it answers me with results. So Dan Martell, for instance, I'm trying to teach an AI to do this. Dan Martell, he's really big into AI. I watch a lot of his videos. He and I have gone back and forth on Instagram for a while, and one of the videos he does is called 131. So when you have a problem, define the problem into one problem, give three options, and then your recommended solution. And that's what I have my team do with me. When you come to me with a problem, don't just come to me with a problem. Come with a problem, a few
Mm-hmm.
solutions, and which one you think we should do.
Right.
And I'm trying to get the AI to do that with me. Like, don't just say, "Hey, do this." I want three. I want three alternatives. I want three
Mm-hmm.
possible solutions, and then the one you recommend. So, I'm trying to
Yes.
get it to do that so that it's not totally robotic. You're able to see multiple ideas and still make the decision yourself.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And yeah, I agree with you. It's very critical to start your day off in the Bible, so that's always
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
For
absolutely. I was
sure.
saying that start that first hour of
Yeah.
prayer and in your Bible and some other spiritual book or podcast, and that first hour is a very critical piece. I think that
Hmm.
gets your day off right.
For sure. Yeah. So, what industries are driving the most demand right now? For example, retail, corporate, healthcare.
Hmm. For us, it's been retail. I think um, we've seen it's pretty much what we mostly do, but there was a definite increase in demand for our services, especially last year. I'm just basing a lot of things off of last year. We did a lot more work in retail and events than we had any other year. Yeah, last year was a record-breaking year on multiple fronts, and most of it driven by all these retail stores were trying to revamp and step up and swap out and just like give
Hmm.
themselves a facelift. And they're doing the same thing with this year. I mean, it started out a little slower for us this year, I'm not gonna lie. But there is so many things in the works still that um that haven't been approved yet. Like I think a lot of people have to shake off the rust and the hangover from the holidays. But once they that like I'm seeing the response to emails. I mean, we got this multi six figure project just out of nowhere. They want to revamp all these locations, and those are just the ones out of the LA area. They have
Wow.
seven other locations, seven other batches like this they've asked us to quote as well, and it looks like we got them, and it'll be a multi-year thing, and all of these things are just doing a whole general franchise food chains and retail stores. Both of those just boom. Those are all getting redone, and it's cool to see, and I'm excited for it.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. That's a great
Yeah,
contract. Way to go.
yeah, yeah.
So, what's your long term vision? Acquisition, franchising, or dominating the niche?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to. It depends on the day, I suppose. Some
Yeah.
days somebody walks in with a six pack, I'll give them the keys. Other days, I'm going to be here till I die. So, but I'll say this: I tend to go in 5 year increments. I know where I want to be long term in the next, when I'm older. But I also want to leave room. I don't want to be so fixated on that one goal that I don't leave room for God to make the change. So
Yeah.
for me right now, I'm starting the 5 year thing. By the time 2030 is here, I want to make the decision to either sell or start buying everybody up, and just build it
Yeah.
into a one big mecca of install.
Yeah.
And I've reached out to a few people trying to, hey, would you be open to, would you be able to be acquiring you or whatever, or something like that, and buy other people up? So far, not so much. But we'll see where it looks like in a little bit. But
Yeah.
I am basically for the next 5 years. It was okay, and I used AI to do this. By the way, I had a whole conversation. So I turned on Grok, and I use a bunch of different AIs, but this particular one was with Grok. And I was talking to it, and I was like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I got going. Here's this, and I just started talking for about an hour, going back and forth with AI of what I would like to build out, what I would like to make happen. And then I was like, okay, I like this vision. I was able to like basically build out the picture by 2030. And then, okay, now break it down into the next 5 years. Okay, now break it down into, you know, by month, and break it down by week. And it just gives you that to-do list almost of how, okay, now we have all this. Now the AI is like, okay, here's what you need to do to pursue that. How do you want the maximum EBITDA you can get so you can sell it for the biggest multiple? To do that, you need a proprietary software to get the like. A lot of companies
Yeah.
sell for 4 or 5 EBITDA, or service based. It's usually 2, maybe 3 EBITDA. But if you have a proprietary software that can be licensed, that's where you get 15, 20x EBITDA. So we
Yeah.
started building our own software. We have done all these things so that we can be a very, very prized sellable asset. But I may just license the software. I may buy up other install companies, and just make it bigger and bigger. So I don't know yet. Um, I just know the general direction I'm going, and to do that, I need to maximize EBITDA, maximize profits, and proprietary software. So
Yes. Excellent. That's an excellent plan. Way to go. So, what advice would you give someone entering the signage installation business?
do what no one else will.
Yeah.
Be the guy that shows up when no one else can. Sacrifice, put in your dues. A lot of people come in a little bit too hot-headed. Oh, I ain't gonna do that. Well, then I'm not gonna call you. When I need you. Because if you're not willing to do those
Yeah.
little things, those little jobs, and you only want the big mural jobs, well, then I'm not gonna work with you. You have to be willing to take those little one-off surveys,
Yeah.
just as much as you're willing to take the week-long 10,000 square foot of frost jobs. So do what you say you're gonna do. Do what no one else is gonna do. It's that easy
Yeah.
to stand out. I mean, just to
Oh, yeah.
do what you say you're going to do is going to make you stand out tenfold, especially in blue collar. But I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's like the saying. At the end of the day, you're only as good as your word. That's why it's
it's true.
important to keep your word, and you prove yourself in the little things,
Yeah,
right? At least that's
yeah,
how the Bible says, right? If you're faithful in the little, God will grant you bigger things. So
yeah,
that's His principle, and we can take that principle right to the bank and put it in
hundred
effect
percent.
into our businesses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that is you know, it is very hard. I think my billionaire mentor always says, do what you say you're going to do, no matter the cost. I
Yeah.
mean, and I have been changing my way to more of that. It's I screw up a lot. I'm always picking myself up. I'm a I have a what Dave Ramsey say. I have a PhD in DOMB from the School of Hard Knocks or whatever. So
Yeah.
dude, that's me 100%. I fall down and screw up and mess up all the time. And the biggest thing for me is like, okay, how do I make it right? How do I fix it? How do I do whatever? Like, getting people paid is one of the hardest things. And it's only hard because of how hard it is for us to get paid, and then you got installers treating us horribly. And I can't even blame them. I don't blame them at all because, I mean, I know what that's like. I've been that guy where I was doing jobs and I couldn't afford a hotel because they're a net 30 client. And so I'm literally sleeping in my car, doing all this stuff with my dog. And then they're late on their net 30. And I'm like, hey, I got to eat at some point, like, so I
Yeah.
get it. I also know that, like, if I spoke to my clients the way they're speaking to me, I wouldn't have a business. And so it's like
No. Yeah.
finding that line. And I've gotten a lot better. I have some mentors that are in the industry, and here's how you get paid better from them and faster and whatever. And so we have implemented a lot of those things that have helped a lot. Today is way better than it was 3 or 4 years ago, but it's a process. These big big retail and commercial, they'll pay when they're good and ready, and no matter
Yeah.
how much you threaten them, it doesn't help much. So those sort of
No.
things are really frustrating, and I feel horrible when those things bleed down to hurt the vendor. And it's like you're trying to simultaneously you're working both ends of it, trying to appease the client and appease the installer, and but also, bro, we did our job. I need you to get us paid, and bro, just give me a minute while I get this thing to you. And it's embarrassing and it's hard and all the things. And we're getting better at it. But it's just that you run into all these, when he says whatever the cost, I was like, okay, I took that to heart when he said, do what you say what you're going to do. You said you're going to pay
Yeah.
whatever at whatever time you pay them, whatever time, without jeopardizing the business. Because if you just put your business constantly in jeopardy,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be able to pay anybody. And so it's been
Yes.
learning to juggle that, to jump rope that line and get it right has been interesting for sure. But I have been doing more and more to get that stuff those systems and those bugs worked out so that we don't have that problem. Using tools like factoring and other lines of credit or whatever to bridge the
Yeah.
gap in those short term
Yeah.
things. But it's not fun, but it's part of it sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Austin, this has been an incredible conversation. What you're building with visual installations is more than signage, it's brand execution at scale. For those listening, if you're a retail chain, commercial developer, or a national brand looking to elevate your physical presence, this is a company to watch. Austin, where can people connect with you?
You can find us at visualinstallers.com. We're on Instagram and LinkedIn under Visual Installations. Um, you know, Reach out anytime at admin@visualinstallers.com. We're happy to help with whatever you got. We're helping a friend of mine with his new clinic that he's opening in Texas, and so we have another friend locally actually who's you know we're doing some new signage for his chiropractic clinic. So excited to help that. So.
Perfect. Good. All right, folks, thank you for turning into the Business Exchange. If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone building, scaling, or branding across the country. Until next time, keep building, keep innovating, and keep exchanging value. And thanks a lot again, Austin, for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.